Hello, everyone. Yes. Hi, Roseanne. You guys can, I think, let me see if I can unmute you. If you can unmute yourself by, you can definitely unmute yourself because we're not ready to start just yet.
Hello, I saw it.
Hello. Hello, Lenore. Lenore, and who are you with, Lenore? Oh, you need to unmute yourself.
Up to you. If you want her to see you, sure.
There's Marcia. Is it Marcia or Marcia?
Marcia.
Marcia, nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Hello, Nancy. Hello,
Hi.
Marie.
Hi.
Nancy and Yanni. And her.
And Annie, did you say Annie?
Yanni.
Yenny, nice to meet you. And your witch.
Her.
And your witch, okay.
Bafana is here too.
La Befana, exactly. Right. That's great. We have a few other people. Camilla, Arlene. Okay, good. Gary. We have 45 people who signed up for tonight, so let's see how many show up.
This Jen.
Hello, Jennifer. Nice to see you. You're muted, so if you want to take yourself off mute, you can. Nice to see you. Jennifer was supposed to go this year, but that's not happening, obviously. But it's still, we still have hope for next time when it's possible, right? Hi, Gary. How are you? Thanks for joining us.
If you mute yourself, it will that.
Feel free to unmute yourself if you want to say hi. Otherwise, I'm just going to wait for a few more people to join and then we'll get started. Anna Maria, Rupi. Okay, good.
Buongiorno.
Buonasera, actually.
Yeah, that's right. Almost buonanotte.
Well, I know, I've been corrected many times. You only say buonanotte when you're actually saying goodnight, like signing off at the end of the day, like I'm going to bed or you're leaving the restaurant for good, So buonasera is like what we would say at this hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Molte grazie. Mille grazie.
Prego. Where are you, Gary?
Where am I?
Yes.
In Edison, New Jersey.
Oh, in Edison. Okay, you're not too far from me.
Where are you?
Turn my volume up a little bit.
You're where?
I'm in Inglewood.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Part of the state. Another part of the state.
Mm-hmm.
Italy 5 times.
You've been to Italy 5 times.
Yeah.
Wow. Have you been to Sicily?
A little bit. I was in Taramina and Matera. Not Matera. Some other place.
Messina.
Messina.
You were on a cruise, I imagine.
Yeah, that was a cruise.
So your cruise ship stopped in Messina and you went to Taramina for the day.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to the amphitheater.
Good. Good. There's Denise. Hi, Denise. So there's a few folks in here that I know. Many of you I don't, which is great. We're just waiting for some more folks to join us and then I'll get started.
Allison, would you prefer us to all mute ourselves or leave ourselves?
Yeah, when I start the presentation, I'm going to have you all mute yourself.
Okay.
And then, just so you can hear me well. And, I'm going to recommend you put your screen on speaker view so that you can see the presentation really well because it's a lot of beautiful photos. The speaker view is going to be in your upper right-hand corner of your window and you can change the view. It starts, oftentimes you're in gallery view, so it looks like a tic-tac-toe board. but you can click on that and you can pick speaker view, and then it will go to either just me or most likely for most of this, it's going to be the presentation that I'm going to pull up in a minute. So
Be under more.
perhaps, but I think just way up in the upper right corner, you're going to see something that says
Upper
view.
right corner.
Like I said, there'll be a tic-tac-toe board, or there'll be a
Tic-tac-toe.
box with little
Oh,
boxes. underneath.
switch to gallery view.
Right, so gallery views, you're going to be able to see everyone on the call. And then
Okay,
you can also do speaker view. And I recommend doing speaker view because then you'll see the presentation really well that I'm going to be putting up on my screen in a minute. Yeah. There's Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer. So we're up to 20. All right, so one more minute. And I will introduce myself formally. Thank you all for coming. I've been, I realized, because I took some time away from doing events for the month of September, and then I did an event earlier this month, and I remembered how much I love talking about what I do and sharing it with people. So I was like, I need to do more. So I'm hoping to do more events, probably a couple a month. All different kinds, different prices. This is my only income right now. So anything you participate in, I appreciate it. Either if it's complimentary or if it's paid.
Shut up, Reed. I can fucking hear you upstairs.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so also there's going to be a chat on the side, and you can open that chat up if you like, and if you want to chat with each other. And also I'm going to ask you to, I'm going to ask some questions, and some of them I want you to answer in the chat, so you can use that chat function also. So I'm going to get started. Let's see. All right, so I'm gonna share my screen, and if you could mute yourselves just so that everyone hears me really well, and also so that again, the speaker view will be on my screen so that all of you can, so that you can have the best viewing experience. Okay. So I'm going to start the presentation.
Mute.
What?
Is that mute or do I hit unmute?
Right now they could hear you.
Yeah,
if you
they
hit
can
mute-
hear you.
If you hit mute, you'll be quiet.
All right, hold on a second. I always am doing this because my slideshow is in the middle. I can't get to it. So hold on. Because all right, there we go. Let's see here. 'Cause the Zoom menu overcomes my slideshow option. Okay, here we go. Should be able to do it now. Okay, good. All right, so can you see me in the market? Can you all see that? Yes, okay, good. All right, so I am Allison Scola. Thank you for joining me again. Let's dream of traveling to Sicily. I'm the owner and curator of Experience Sicily. So my first question for you tonight is, have you been to Sicily? So I'm going to call this up. Just answer question number 1. If you can see, let's see if it comes up here. So I only want you to answer question number 1 right now. Have you been to Sicily? So answer the first question. I hope that I didn't mess this up, but we're going to see how many of you have been to Sicily. So can you see that on your screen, the poll on your screen? Marcia, can you? Yes, you can. Okay.
I don't think we could just answer one question.
Or you have to answer all of them. Ah,
Yeah.
shoot. Shoot. I messed this up. Okay, well. Go ahead and answer. Let's see. Have you been to Sicily?
Does it count if I've been just a couple of places?
Sure, of course it does. Just gives me a sense of, I have so
No.
many questions here and I have to answer them all at once. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Scola.
Uh,
Next time I'll remember to do individual ones. Are you answering? You're answering? Yes? Okay, I see. Do you have Sicilian heritage? Answer that question. And let's see.
Allison, I don't see the questions. I answered yes, and then I closed it. How do I get back to the questions?
Ah, that's a good question. I don't know. Don't close it yet.
No.
I don't think I can relaunch it if you closed it. So the next question is, do you have Sicilian heritage? If you do, let's answer that one. Yes or no. Sicily boasts how many UNESCO World Heritage Sites? Well, I'm going to introduce you to that. This is sort of a trick question. And then you can answer the next question, which is, which of these is not a UNESCO World Heritage Site? So we'll see. You'll get the answer as we go through the presentation. And then, of course, I'm very curious about what it is you're interested in doing when you go to Sicily. So I ask you, what excites you? What are you really interested in doing when you go to Sicily? So there's a lot of things there. It's history, art, and archaeology. You're interested in legends, mythology, and the ancient sacred, the natural world. So you like hiking and walking, maybe cycling. Maybe you're into beaches and swimming and maybe even boating or fishing, connecting with local people. Food culture. How many of you are interested in traveling there because you're interested in the food culture? The spiritual sites, seeing churches, visiting ancient Jewish sites, because there are some ancient Jewish sites in Sicily. Seeking your family heritage, if you have heritage there. You want to visit off the beaten path villages. If you're interested in wine what and wine making, that's something to tell me about. I'm curious to hear what you're curious about when you travel there. What excites you? And then when do you hope to travel to Sicily? So this is a question because obviously we don't know when we're going to be able to travel, but we want to be able to travel, right? Yep. And let's see what else we have here. Did you know that cannoli are Sicilian? So many of you, I can see the answer to that. You do know. And also if you, all right, well, we'll get to that when I get through the presentation. So anyway, this is really interesting. I can see the results. I don't think you guys can see the results, right? Gary, can you see the results there?
Can't see it. I can see my results.
Okay. So it looks like 72% of you have been to Sicily or so. Now it's changing as I'm reading this, but a lot of you have been there, which is really helpful for me to know because I can then know who I'm talking to. Many of you have Sicilian heritage, about half. And okay, I'm going to answer the UNESCO Heritage Site question when we get there. And I will, yeah, we'll get there. And then what's really helpful and wonderful for me to see is that many of you have put down that you want to connect with local people. That is one of the things that excites you when you travel, that you want to see off the beaten path villages, that you really are into food culture and archaeology and history. Yes, of course. And wine is very big. And that's all helpful because these are the things I love myself and that I love sharing with people. So especially connecting with local people. And of course, heritage is really important for those of you who have heritage there. And then a lot of you are looking to travel in fall 2021. Well, I really hope we can. Let's keep our eyes on the prize, right? So, all right, so I'm going to end the polling. Thank you all for participating. This was super. Okay, and then of course, we're going to end this whole, I'm going to share the results so you can see it. We're going to end this whole conversation, this presentation, with question and answers. So I'm going to answer your questions as best I can. My guess is that you're very much versed in a lot of Sicilian stuff. So we'll see. Your questions are probably going to be more difficult than most people's questions for me, which I love. So I'm going to, and of course you can use the chat. I will try and keep up with the chat, but I may have to get back to you at some point later. Anyway, so have you been to Sicily? Many of you have, and that's wonderful. I'm going to just give you a little background about me. Experience Sicily is my company. I started it in 2013, and we are a boutique tour operator. I'm a Sicily travel specialist. This is all I do all day. We have small group tours. I do custom creative itineraries for independent travelers based on what you tell me you're excited about, for example. I do custom small group itineraries, and I manage tours for people. So I've had families go where they go on a heritage trip. I've had a couple who celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary and wanted their best friends and family to come with them. And we did a wonderful food themed trip that they wanted. That was wonderful. It was 11 people. Let's see, I also do heritage research and experiences. We will research your routes for you for part of your package, and then set up experiences in the town or towns where your family came from, and you'll get to meet local people there. And even if there are some living relatives, we like to set you up with them. It's always possible. You never know what can happen. It's amazing stuff. I do professional consultation on itinerary you research, because I know many of you like to do your own research. That's why you're on this call tonight, perhaps. And maybe you just want some extra help on figuring out if the route works, how much time you should spend in places, things that you can't really figure out in a guidebook. So I can give you that consultation. We do that over the phone, sometimes in person if you're close by. I also host a Cannoli Crawl in New York City, which is a food history tour. Denise has been on that. And so once we can travel and once it's safe to be doing that, I look forward to offering that Cannoli Crawl. I will be doing it for people privately if they have small groups of 6 and fewer over the next few months. So you can contact me about that. And of course, I like to host a lot of stateside gatherings, online Sicily inspired events like this one. But in person, in the past, we've done the Santa Lucia dinner. We do St. Joseph's Day every year, among other wonderful events that I love to share Sicily with you. And then I write articles and do lectures, and often, every day I post to social media and to my website, experiencesicily.com. So you can have daily insights about Sicily. Every day I post something different and interesting about it. So I am part of a team. My cousin Evelina, who is here on the left or side of me, she is my right arm in Sicily. She is in Bagheria outside of Palermo, and she and I are the designers. Basically, I will interpret what you want, and Evelina will take care of all the logistics. She is in Sicily and speaks the language of our suppliers there. So this is your team. And we want to, Amuni, we want you to come with us. Amuni means let's go in Sicilian. Here is me in the middle of my family a couple years ago for my birthday. So I have lots of relatives there that I love, and I can't wait to see when it's possible. So I asked you if you had Sicilian heritage. If you do, I'm curious to hear, and you can write this in the chat. What town your family, or towns, if you know the town, your family came from. So you can write that in the chat. I'd love to hear from you about that. Palermo, yes. And Palermo often you'll hear, and that could mean the province of Palermo. So like my family is in Bagheria, which is province of Palermo. My grandfather might have put Palermo on his ship's manifest, for example. Mirto and Frazzano. I know Mirto, I don't know Frazzano. Castellammare del Golfo is wonderful. One of my favorite places. Wow. We have a couple pictures here from Castellammare del Golfo. Okay, Agrigento. Okay. Denise. Well, okay, Denise, you mean the place of the Taratata is Castelveltrano. No, not Castelveltrano. What's it called? The town your family's from. I'm totally escaping me, Denise, but I know it. Palermo, Castellammare del Golfo. Okay, so as you're thinking about it, figuring out, don't hesitate to write it in there. I'd love to know, and I'm gonna go back and read the chat later. So, all right, so what we're gonna cover tonight, just go quickly through this: why Sicily is spectacular, why you want to visit it, the highlights of a tour to Sicily, when to visit, how best to navigate the island, the ideal visit time, making your trip remarkable, what we can do, what you can do to make your trip remarkable, and an introduction to Sicilian cuisine, because you know we just love the food. It's a real reason to be there. For those of you who are somewhat unfamiliar with it, Sicily is the island off of the toe of the boot of Italy, right off of Calabria. It is the largest island in the Mediterranean, bigger than Sardinia. And it's as a result, here it is in the middle of the Mediterranean. And as a result of that, the influences are far and wide. And that's what makes it so fascinating, because so many different cultures over the centuries have colonized it and occupied it. So for example, we're going to start in ancient history, ancient human Western civilization history. And we know that in 1735, the first colonists came and founded a colony at Giardini Naxos on the east side of Sicily. Now, the Greeks have been traveling to Sicily to do trading for centuries before that, but they never actually, established a town until 735 BCE. And we have also the Carthaginians, which before they were Carthaginians, they were called Phoenicians, and they came from Lebanon, Israel, Jordan, that coast over on the eastern side of Sicily, and they traveled to Western Sicily. Now, their thing was they were incredible mariners, and they were really into tuna fishing. So they weren't so interested in colonizing at first. They were more interested in using the sea to to trade and to do their tuna fishing. Eventually, the Phoenicians established a city in where we call today is Tunisia. You can see Tunis. That was called Carthage. So like the British who came to America and they became Americans, these Phoenicians came to Tunisia, which it became in their time Carthage, and they became Carthaginian. So what happened then is that Sicily, over that time, this is concurrent with each other. The east side became very Greek because of its proximity to Greece, and the west side became Carthaginian because of its proximity to Carthage. Okay, so to give you an idea, Carthage was quite a power. It ruled the Western Mediterranean. And this is really important because Western Sicily, even today, has the influences of the Carthaginian and Western Mediterranean. Whereas the east side, you can see ancient Greece. Here, as you can see the size of ancient Greece over time and how expansive and influential it was. Here you're looking at a map between 500 and 300 BCE, so before Common Era. So you get a sense of these two cultures side by side, not really getting along so well, Sicily being the battleground for them actually, but both very important in Sicily. Even today, their influence is so vital to understanding Sicilians today. So the history of Sicily is very deep, it's very profound, but to give it to you as a, let's look at the timeline here. You can see where things fall. And before the Greeks and the Phoenicians arrived, there were the Elemi, the Sicani, the Siculi, and you'll still see Sicilians referring to themselves as I'm Sicano or I'm Siculo. Okay, not so much Elemi because we don't know much about them, but I can tell you it runs deep. Here you also see when Rome was important, right? And that's important because we learned so much about Rome. We know so much about Rome. And the Romans were really beginning their campaign to take Sicily in 264 BCE. And that is where you see a lot going on between the Greeks, the Phoenicians, the Greeks and the Carthaginians with Rome. And eventually Rome takes over. An important date to note is in 380 BC Common Era. So now we've switched the calendar. 380 Common Era, Christianity became the official religion of the Roman Empire. So that's an important date to note, because before that we had Greek mythology and we had Carthaginian mythology, or these legends or their divinities, and this still influences what we're seeing in Sicily today even. So as you go through, important other dates to note, the Byzantine period was very important. The Arab period was extremely important, 200 years of Arab rule of Sicily. And we have them to thank for so much technology, and the modern cannoli is because of them. So the Arab period is very important, and many Sicilians will tell you they're very proud of that Arab heritage. And then in 1061, the Normans came from Normandy, France, and they were already in Puglia and in Bari, etc. And they moved east. They had the support of the Vatican to make Sicily Christian again. And they were really ambitious men, the Normans. And what came about was an extraordinary kingdom, which we know as the Norman Kingdom, which essentially, with the death of Frederick II, who's extremely important in history of Europe, he died in 1066 or 1050 actually. But you can see that that's a very important period, and we're going to see a lot of architecture and their monuments and their churches left over still. So this is all, you're seeing the history of Sicily, and all of this will indicate what it is you're going to be experiencing when you're there. The culture, the people, the food, all of these things influence what Sicily is offering you today. So Amoni, let's go. Enough talking about all that detail. But here's a picture of what Sicily looks like today, modern Sicily. You can see Messina in the upper right corner. So like I was telling Gary earlier today, this evening, a lot of your cruise ships will come into Messina, and then you'll go from there and you'll have your day trips to Taramina or to Mount Aetna. And then, the rest of you who are there for flying in directly, you're going to fly into Palermo Airport or Catania Airport, depending on how you start your trip and where you focus your trip. So we're going to get more into why you would fly into one airport and the other in a little bit. But this gives you a sense of, where towns are. So I see a lot of you are from Castellamare del Golfo, which is essentially if you take the E from Erice and you go to the coastline from that E, Castellamare is over there. Marineo is in the mountains behind Palermo, so south of Palermo, and Bolognetta as well. Montalegro is along the western coast of Agrigento. It's beautiful, Montalegro. Santa Margherita del Belice is, sort of between Marsala and Agrigento, very roughly, but closer to Marsala. So you'll see, depending on where you want to visit, there's a lot. Sicily is the size of Massachusetts, but you can't travel across I-90. It's not so easy. So you really need a lot of time to see the whole island. It's mountainous, and there are not really reliable roadways. You have a couple autostradas, one across the north, one down on the east side, and one that spans between Catania and Palermo. But the rest of the island is small single lane roadways. So you have to be aware of how that works. So going back to the question we asked earlier, Sicily boasts how many UNESCO World Heritage Sites? I don't remember which answer you all put in terms of what won, but I'm gonna tell you in a minute. We're gonna go through this and you're gonna see something about, how many are there? It's pretty amazing. So here we have Valley of the Temples. This is actually one of the first sites that UNESCO appointed as a heritage site. This is the Temple of Concord that you're looking at, or Concordia. It is from 600 BCE. There are 7 temples on this site. Most people visit about 4 or 5 of them. It's extraordinary. Another UNESCO World Heritage Site is Piazza Armerina in the Roman Ville of Casale. You might be familiar with this image. This is often called the Bikini Girls. This is our first note in history that bikinis existed. This is from the 4th century BC, the Common Era. So the 4th century we had bikinis, but actually they're not swimming. They're actually performing athletics. And this is showing an athletic contest. It's actually called the Room of the 10 Maidens. And this is in Piazza Armerina. It is extraordinary. It's a estate where you have 63,000 square feet of mosaic tile floors. It is extraordinary. Mount Aetna is another site that is fascinating to see. Here it is from Bronte on the west side. You can see pistachio trees in the foreground here, and then still there's snow on the peak in May when I was there and took this photo. Montreal Cathedral. These are the Cloisters of Montreal. The Cathedral Cefalù. So these are part of the Palermo sites of the Arab Norman heritage. This is from the Royal Palace in Palermo. This is from Roger II's rooms. We have Catania. Look at the Baroque. What a difference it is between, sorry, I wanted to go back and the Arab Norman designs. This is Byzantine, it's Greek, it's Jewish, it's Arab, all mixed together. I mean, this could be something out of Persia, for example. And then you switch to the shock of the Baroque. This is a fast forward to the 18th century. This is the basilica or the cathedral in Catania to Saint Agatha. More Baroque. Here's Ragusa Ibla, another wonderful town that was rebuilt after the 1693 earthquake that destroyed so much of southeastern Sicily. So Ragusa Ibla. And here's Siracusa, also this beautiful piazza in Siracusa. This is in Ortigia, the island that is the center of Siracusa. So like Manhattan is to New York City, Ortigia is to Siracusa. And again, the Baroque is present because of that earthquake. We also have Pentalica, which is tombs that are all throughout this area of southeastern Sicily. Tombs that were built in 5000 BC, sometimes even older, 10,000 BCE. So there's nothing much in these tombs now, but they were occupied for centuries. And so this is the Pentalica Neapolis, it's called, or the Necropoli of Pentalica. The Aeolian Islands are another thing to visit in Sicily. They're off of the north of Sicily, Stromboli. This is a picture of Stromboli, and it's a volcano, an active volcano, and it's constantly erupting, Stromboli. It's a fascinating place to visit because of the people who live on an active volcano. You got to be a little crazy to do that, which makes it an exciting place to visit. And then there is Taramina. So many of you know Taramina. It is a beautiful, charming town. It has this incredible amphitheater. So, you know, the amphitheater we see today is from Roman times. However, the Greeks first built it. And it's from 300 BC, Common Era now. So, which of these that I just went through is not a UNESCO World Heritage Site? So we talked about Valley of the Temples, we talked about Taramina, we talked about the Roman Ville of Casale, we talked about the late Baroque towns, the Val di Noto and the Baroque, the Siracusa and the rocky necropolis of Pentalica, Mount Aetna, the Arab Norman Palermo sites, the Aeolian Islands. So many of you answered. The answer is, which one of these is not a UNESCO designated site? Well, let's see. Oh, here is my list again. And here's the answer so that you're surprised. Taramina is not a UNESCO site. It is very beautiful to visit there. However, it is not a UNESCO site. The amphitheater there is not considered a UNESCO site. So there you go. But these other sites are, and something like Pentalica is not so visited by most people because it is not easy to navigate. You need hiking boots to get there, but it is fascinating and one of my favorite places to go. So just because of the natural beauty of it. So anyway, let's keep going. So like I said, what excites you? I want to know what excites you. And I got a picture of that. So I'm excited to know that you're really interested in interacting with local people and seeing small villages and getting off the beaten path. So once again, this is the Cathedral of Montreal. Here is the Cathedral of Palermo. This is the roof walk, which I did last September when I was there. And the views from there are stupendous. Cefalù also is beautiful. These things are, offer all different excitement. Now, my question for you, and again, you answered this question for me. Hold on, I need to move this out of my way. So when do you hope to travel to Sicily? So yes, many of you are looking at fall of 2021 and beyond. Now, the question is also when to visit. So when I am working with you and you call me and you say, we want to visit Sicily, I often will ask you a lot of questions about what excites you, because I want to know, what it is you want to do, because that determines when you'll go. If you are into obviously swimming and beach, we're looking at June through October. May, you can swim, it's a little chilly. So that would determine a lot. If you're really interested in feasts and seeing how they celebrate different religious situations or patron saints, Easter is a fantastic time to go. Every day of the week, there's a different festival, feast, procession going on, pageantry. So that would be what I might suggest for you to go. If there's a food that you're interested in, like you really want to learn about olive oil, or you really want to learn about winemaking, these determine when you would go. You would go for olive oil at the end of October into November, because that's when they're pressing the olives and they're making olive oil. For wine, it could be any time from mid-September to now. They're still doing picking of grapes depending on what part of the island you're on, and they're still making the must to create the wine. So all these things determine when I would suggest you when to visit. All right, so here's Castellamare del Golfo, one of my favorite places. How would you navigate Sicily? What's the best way to get around? Well, I love driving there myself, but I do not suggest it for most people. I do it a lot because I go all the time and I'm comfortable with it. It is a different style of driving than we have here in the United States. So it's not for everyone. There are different ways to get around the island. One, of course, would be to come on a small group tour with me, where we are in a small, air-conditioned, very comfortable coach, and there's a professional driver driving us, and we don't have to worry about anything because Massimo has got it covered, right? So that's one way. Another way is if you're going independently, you hire private drivers. We have professional drivers who specialize in taking tourists around to different parts of the region. And usually when we do the planning for you, we don't have you have the same driver the whole time. That ends up being very expensive, because if that driver has to pay for his lodging and his food away from home, that adds an extra cost to your trip. So we will pick driver A for if you're in Trapani province, and driver B if you're going to be close to Palermo for a few days, and driver C if you're going to be in Agrigento, and then driver D for when you're in Catania and Taramina or Siracusa. We might have driver E. So that's how we would work with you in terms of having the driving left to someone else who knows his way around or her way around, and therefore you're safe, and we would work with the cost that way. Obviously, there is public transportation as well. There are trains, depending on what part of the island you're on. If you're going to be just traveling on the North Coast, the trains between Messina and Palermo and sort of Trapani are pretty good. Definitely between Messina and Siracusa, they're also very good. Not so much in the center. Most Sicilians will tell you they take the bus. If they're going to go from Palermo to Agrigento, they will take the bus. And there's an extensive bus system. And that's something, if that's what you want to do when you're traveling there, we would help you set all of those up. It's definitely a way to save money. Not necessarily the easiest way to travel, but certainly a way to get through there. So that's how you navigate the island. Of course, then you can also ride your bike if you're willing to do that. There's a lot of mountains, but so that leads me to, what's the ideal itinerary length? This is a question I get often. Oh, I see. What's the best time for mushrooms? Well, actually right now, October, there are the porcini mushrooms are all over Aetna, and we can actually hook you up with a guide who will take you mushroom collecting. You have to have a license to do that. There are truffles in Sicily. It's not something you do normally in Sicily because it's not really part of Sicilian cuisine. Porcini, however, are. And like I said, on Aetna, you can, so that's a great question Judith had asked me. So just so you know, if you go in October, you're gonna be eating a lot of chestnuts, a lot of porcini mushrooms, because that's what is in season right now. So back to this itinerary length. What is ideal? So depending on if you have, a lot of it depends on your time, but then what I would do would determine where you should go and where you spend your time. So for example, if you have 1 week, 7 days, I would say pick a side of the island and focus on that, and then go back another time to do the other side. Like I said, it's a big region. It doesn't, you don't think it is because you're like, oh, you know, it's an island. How big can it be? Well, I want you to think of Massachusetts. If you wanted to spend time in Cape Cod, would you then one day in the middle of that week drive across to go to Lenox to go hear the Boston Philharmonic or the Boston Symphony at Tanglewood? Not necessarily. You're gonna, you know, you want to pick and choose. I think I'll be in the Berkshires because I'll really soak in the Berkshires for a week, and maybe I'll get over to Vermont or something for a day, or I'm going to spend time in Cape Cod. So that's how we think about Sicily. You're going to say, I'm going to fly into Catania and spend time on the east side and explore what's on the east side of the island. Maybe I'll get to Agrigento in the middle of that week. Or you fly into Palermo and you spend your week in Palermo, Trapani province, and maybe get to Agrigento in the middle of that week. So, and then fly in and out of Palermo, or like the other reverse would be flying in and out of Catania. If you have 10 days, which is really a great amount of time, that is when adding Agrigento in there makes it really comfortable. And you could see a reasonable amount of the island in 10 days. An ideal trip is 12 to 14 days. That's ideal. Not everyone can do that, but if you really want to see the east side, Agrigento, the west side, and enjoy it and be able to savor it and to do things that are off the beaten path, I really recommend 12 to 14 days. That's my ideal time. And you can see, and I'll talk about my trips that I offer, that the two trips that I love the most that are really a good survey of the, you know, if you haven't been before, or you want to get, you've been once, or you scrape the surface and you want to get deeper, is the May Enchanting Sicily trip that I offer and the October Stunning Sicily trip that I offer. Those two are 13, 14 days, and they enable us to really see a lot of the island. So what kind of accommodations do you have when you're in Sicily? Where do you stay? Well, I like to put you in obviously something that you're going to like, and everything's going to have air conditioning. That's always someone says it has to have air conditioning. Well, that's a thing of the past. They don't have air conditioning. Air conditioning is always available in Sicily where we are. Northern Italy, maybe not, because they didn't, in the past they didn't need to have air conditioning, but in Sicily we know you need air conditioning. So I offer a lot of different accommodations to my clients, and part of what is for me is about giving you an experience. So of course I can find these amazing villas for you. I work with different villa companies according to what you want, if that's what you're interested in doing. I don't always recommend it because you have to do a week-long rental oftentimes, although now they're changing that policy because they're realizing they're losing business to the Airbnb kind of stuff. So even the luxury villa companies are starting to change their tune about how long you can book for a villa. So that's coming soon in 2021. That's a new thing. I personally love staying at a vineyard or at a farmhouse. And that's what you see here, or little hotels in town. B&Bs, because then you have more interaction with local people. I do everything from 5-star hotels to B&Bs according to what you want. And that sort of leads me to a conversation about how I work. If I'm booking your trip for you as an independent traveler, if you're going with your husband or your wife or another couple or 2 other couples and you're traveling together, the way I work is by a consultation fee. I am a consultant. I'm a Sicily travel specialist. I'm not an agent. I don't work for anybody else in Sicily. I work for you. I am your person that does what you want. So I charge you a consultation fee based on the length of time of your trip, how many people are traveling with you, and then I give you what you want based on your budget, your timing, all the things you're interested in. So I might put you in a 5-star hotel one day because that makes sense. I will put you in a bed and breakfast or in a farmhouse because that makes sense in that location. And I know you're going to have an incredible experience, like beyond what you had considered would be possible. And that farmhouse might cost €100 a night. So how about that? And I don't care that it's only €100 a night because I'm being paid for my consultation fee. So that's how we work, just to give you an idea of how I choose your accommodations according to what makes sense for the location. For example, like I will tell you that one of the best places to stay is Villa Athena in Agrigento. If you're going to be going to Agrigento, you want to stay on the Valley of the Temples. Come on, it's incredible. That would be the place I would recommend you splurge. It might be 350 to 450 euro a night there. It is so worthwhile. You might only be there one night. Probably 2, I would recommend, because one day you want to wake up at least and be able to open your shutters and sit on your terrace and have your breakfast, your coffee, looking at the Temple of Concordia. Well, what could be better? So I'm going to recommend that to you in that 5-star hotel there. And maybe in Taramina, I might suggest that too, because it's all part of the experience of Taramina, to be on the cliff with some incredible view and have a pool, like an infinity pool. That make sense. But when you're in Siracusa or you're in the countryside, I'm going to pick something that's appropriate for those places. And the price to me is not as important as what makes sense for you, what's going to be comfortable for you, and what's going to give you a great experience. So one of the other things I mentioned was we do research for you for your heritage, and we'll set up experiences for you. Here's my client, Tom. I brought him to Sambuca di Sicilia. We found his grandmother's birth certificate there, and we found her home where she was born. We went to visit the home. We connected him with a cousin who he's still in touch with. I mean, it just goes on and on. These experiences are awesome. So that's something that we do, that I love to do. We have local insiders who will help us do the research locally. If I can't be there for you, we will have the guide do that for you and then meet you in the town and translate for you, etc. So all that's exciting. How do we make your trip remarkable? Like I said, what excites you, right? That was one of the questions I asked at the beginning. Well, interaction with locals, number one. That is the number one thing. That is what transforms us. That's what makes us feel connected and human. And so my big objective is to find opportunities for you to connect with locals. Like here's Aldo on the upper left corner. He's a herbalist. He's a medicine man. He's a farmer in the hills of Agrigento. The experience with him is, you can't even explain it. Here's Maria in the bakery in Sant'Angelo Muxaro. She's giving you the bread she just baked. She has pane cunzato with the fresh olive oil. So these are the things you remember. You remember that Maria, how does she speak English so well? Well, she grew up most of her life in England before coming back to the town of her parents and got married to Angelo, and they owned the bakery together for 30 years, right? So these are the things that you remember. This is what I love to do for you. We love to go to the markets. Here's Claudio, who's a basket weaver in the market in Siracusa. I'm in touch with him. He's also an herbalist, and we can go visit his farm in the hills of Siracusa. Obviously, you know, the markets are very exciting because then you're seeing cheese and you're seeing fish and you're seeing vegetables that you've never seen. Here's fava beans, fresh fava beans right in the lower left corner. We don't get to see so many fresh fava beans to these parts of our world. And, you know, you get to interact with, here's another Angelo in the market in Ortigia. He's my buddy there. We have, you know, walking food tours, which is one of my favorite things to do. Here I am with Eric and we're eating who knows what in the Palermo in Il Capo. I think it's tripe, guys, but I don't know because it's like some kind of innards of some animal, but it's interesting to try. You know, when in Palermo, I like to say you should eat whatever they're offering you. One of the things I love to do also is cooking experiences. Here we are making pasta con le sarde with Alessia. So we do cooking experiences, wine experiences, where all different kinds of grapes all over the whole region of Sicily has the Aetna wine region, the Marsala wine region, the Erice wine region, which is Alcamo. There's just dozens of different grape varietals, Nero d'Avola from southeastern Sicily, and depending on, again, what you're interested in and what makes sense for your itinerary, we could set you up with an incredible wine tour of a vineyard to really get into the winemaking process as you wish. You can see Grillo grapes, Catarato grapes, Pericone, Nero d'Avola, the Etna Rosso, Etna Bianco, all different kinds. Olive, like I was saying, olive cultivation. Right now, they're picking the olives, they're making the olive oil. If that's what you wanted to do, we'd have you go at this time of the year, which is incredible. I saw yesterday my friends were swimming off the coast of Agrigento. So it's warm in the south of Sicily right now. Mountains, you still need a jacket, but you can swim in the Mediterranean at the moment. Here is Baldo. He's making cheese. He's making ricotta. So this is one of my favorite things to do, is go to the cheese farm, the dairy, to see the making sheep's milk ricotta, which of course then we make amazing cannoli with those. And then we have the theater. There's so many things to do in Sicily. So in the spring, this is another reason. If you said to me, well, I love live music and live theater, then I would say, well, when you should go, you should be going in May and June, because in Syracuse, in the amphitheater from 500 BCE, they produce world-class productions of ancient Greek plays. So this particular one is The Trojan Women by Euripides. This is from, I think it was last year I saw this one. So I've seen so many plays in this theater. It's incredible. Broadway quality level stuff. It's in Italian. However, the visual presentation is incredible. And they do have in-ear translation. You can always read the cliff notes or read the play before. This is a fascinating thing to do. Boat excursions. Here's Castellamare del Golfo again. Incredible. Look at the color of that water. Oh my God. Volcano excursions. Like I mentioned, you could do porcini mushroom collecting, but look, you can go walk on a crater. You can go into a lava cave. So you can ride a donkey, all these things. This is Salvatore and his donkeys it's like a therapy to go ride donkeys with Salvatore on the hill, the slopes of Etna. Another thing I love to do is hiking or walking in Sicily. You really get to see the landscape that way. And again, depending on your level, how hard you want to be working or not, we would set up a guide for you who you could do that with. And that's something that the yoga trip I have scheduled, we have planned to do a nature walk in Vendiceri Nature Preserve. Here's Cava Grande. This is a very beautiful, natural pond you're looking at in the middle of a nature preserve in southeastern Sicily. This is also near the Pentalica necropoli we were talking about. I took this picture last July. Amazing. Off the beaten path villages, absolutely. This is one of the things I absolutely love. It's so different than what we're accustomed to here in the United States, and we get to meet the local people there. Then there's hidden corners, like here's Teatro Andromeda. This is actually a sculpture that is made by Lorenzo Reina. He's been building this block by block himself stone by stone for the last 30 years. It was a dream. This is in the mountains of Sicani Mountains in Agrigento province, and it's just incredible views. And this is our group last year during our Myths and Mysteries tour. So get away from it all. You can get away. Look at this. You know, who needs Tuscany? That's what I say when you've got views like this. Tuscany, you know, that's great. If you want green, you go in the spring. So April, May, you'll have incredible green hillsides. This is a picture from September, so you can see that the wheat harvest has been done. They're turning over the fields, getting it ready for next year. So let's see what else. We have incredible views. Here is Caltagirone from Enna in the center of Sicily. The views are just incredible in the center of Sicily. Castles. Let me tell you, every town in Sicily has a castle of some kind. They're all different in terms of condition. Here's Cacamo. This place is amazing. There is even a trap door in here where you know, the Chiaramonte family, whoever the owner was in the 15th century, which was the Chiaramonte family, would say, oh, you know, before dinner, why don't you say a prayer? Here's our little chapel. You can go and do a little prayer before dinner. Well, be careful, because just underneath where you're going to kneel down is a trap door, and when it opens up, there's a bed of nails. And I'm not joking, that is in this castle. So the exciting stuff you can see when you're curious about castles, etc. Now again, when to go? Well, feasts and festivals are one of the most exciting things to do in Sicily. And depending on the time of year, we have Carnevale in February, we have Santa Agata in February. There is the St. Joseph's Day in March, which is one of my favorite holidays. Easter, which according to the year depends on when that's going to be. We have incredible stuff that happens in Easter. There's festivals for the Madonna all through August into September and to October because of the harvest. So we're celebrating the abundance that the earth is giving us. There's so many incredible festivals for food, for saints, for different reasons that have been going on for centuries. And so this is a reason to visit. And that's, again, how I would design your trip, or why I designed our group tours a certain way, is because we're going to stop to be part of, experience these feasts and festivals. Folklore and crafts. This is a big part of visiting Sicily. Obviously, ceramics is a very big part of Sicily. Now, Karen wrote to me earlier this week, and she said to me, Allison, you know, if I wanted to buy ceramics and I wanted to ship them to myself at home, where is the best place to do that? How can I know that I'm going to get my ceramics? And can you recommend a place? This was a very good question. There are 5 different centers of ceramics in Sicily. The 2 major ones are Caltagirone and Santo Stefano di Camastra. Sciacca is another one. And then, of course, there are individual ceramic makers around, like Nino Perucca in Palermo and Mariella Pipia, who's my favorite in Bagheria. I know that if you went to Mariella and you purchased some of her ceramics and asked her to ship them to you, you know, she would do it and we could trust her. What I suggest with all my clients when they go, and you're going to go to Caltagirone, you're going to go to Santo Stefano di Camastra, every store is a ceramics shop, right? So it's overwhelming. And without a doubt, you're going to find something you want and you're going to have it shipped. Make sure you take photos of the storefront, you take photos of the address of the store, you take photos of your receipt, you write down every detail, you make sure that you get the email address, the phone number, etc. of all of these places where you're purchasing things and you're arranging for shipping. And note that there is a limit on how much you can ship, and there may be tariffs when it arrives in the United States. There's a lot to this. So be prudent about how much you're purchasing and who you're working with. So I don't have a specific, you know, other than Mariella, for example, I don't have a specific person or shop that I know that I would say, oh, better than another one. Also, because all the ceramics are different, the art is different, and your taste is going to be different according to what you like. So my best advice is to really be careful about keeping track of everything. And then if we help you book your tour, I have spent time following up with these ceramic shops and other places for my clients to make sure that the ceramics arrive. Often it takes 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes longer, but they do arrive eventually. So I hope that answers that question. So Opera dei Pupi, many of you might be familiar with this UNESCO Heritage recognized art form of marionette puppets. They're incredible. It's amazing stuff. I love talking about this. I might just do a whole lecture on this someday. There is so much beautiful ancient art and art history. I don't always suggest going to the museums because outside is a museum, but there are a couple museums that are extraordinary, and there's pieces that are extraordinary. And if you have this particular interest, I would absolutely tell you, okay, you have to visit this museum. You must visit this museum. You know, you have everything from Antonella da Messina. This is on the lower right side, to ancient art from Mozio, which is on the left side, the young chariot rider. It just goes on and on, the amount of incredible artwork. Like I said, here's more. You have Venus from Syracuse. The Archaeological Museum in Syracuse, the Museo Orsi, to me is a not to be missed museum because I'm really interested in ancient art. Also, Salinas in Palermo is extraordinary. And then there are these incredible pieces, like on the lower right side, we have the Dancing Satyr, who's in Mazzella del Vallo. So again, this is sort of like a very spectacular piece, but it's a really far out of the way. So unless this is something that you're really specifically interested in, or it makes sense because you're going to be in that area, you know, we would plan accordingly. Live music is throughout the island. Sicily has a wonderful folk music. I play folk music. I'm a folk musician, and my husband and I have a duo, and we do live performances, and I will probably do a folk music presentation in the next few months. So stand by for that. We're going to perform and talk about the music. But definitely it's something that I incorporate into all my trips. I have friends all over the island who are folk musicians and wonderful, wonderful artists to share music with you. Shopping is a big deal, right? So there's always shopping. I like to send you to places like the ceramic stores I was talking about that really have particular art that is specific to Sicily. Probably the best shopping is in Taramina, and you're going to get art, you're going to get shopping from all over Italy, not just Sicily there. But certainly it is a fantastic place. If shopping is your thing, Taramina is the place to go. And then also in the center of the island is the Sicily Outlet Mall. So if you're interested in getting your Armani and your Polo Ralph Lauren in Sicily, because Polo's there too, that's a really fun place to spend some time. But I don't always suggest that unless you really have to go get some, I don't even know, there may be a Dolce & Gabbana one there, but I'm not sure. So I don't remember. I was there last year for a couple hours, but you know, there is the outlet village, but really the more important stuff is the ceramics and the art, like these incredible earrings I'm wearing. Roseanne can tell you all about those. We have Santa Lucia here in the lower left. I have some coral here. I'm not a big fan of the coral because of what it takes to get that coral, but certainly in Taramina it is something that you can purchase. So did you know that cannoli are Sicilian? Yes, many of you did. You answered that question, which is great. Right, Roseanne, you said Santa Rosalia in July. Yes, is when you would go if you want to see be part of Il Festino, a big street party in Palermo. And they don't really, they have cannoli now in the summer, but cannoli really traditionally are from Carnevale, February, end of January, February into May is when the best cannoli were, and kind of still are, because of when the ricotta is the best. When the grasses are green, it makes very, very wonderful sweet ricotta. So that's when you eat the best cannoli in Sicily. There's a lot of incredible food. Here we have fresh macaroni. This is pasta alla norma, which is eggplant with tomato sauce, some basil, and then on top, salted ricotta, sheep's milk ricotta. That is the traditional cheese to put on pasta alla norma. And so we have a whole bunch of kinds of different cuisines throughout the island, east to west. So speaking of west, in the upper left corner is couscous. When you're in Trapani province, you will eat couscous. When you're in Ragusa province, you're going to see in the center here, you're going to see those little sandwich looking things. That is scaccia, which is a traditional sort of folded bread with stuffed with different things that you have in Ragusa province. St. Joseph's Day pastries here on the left. Lower left, arancini, okay, rice balls. This is from the Arab times. This is arancini is from Eastern Sicily. Arancine is from Palermo, females on Palermo side. And then we were mentioning porcini. Here, this pasta in the lower left here is porcini pasta that I ate in Palermo. Lots of different cheeses, lots of sheep's milk cheeses. And then, of course, the finale of it all is having gelato. Here we have pistachio gelato in a brioche, a sweet brioche. Oh my goodness, right? So that is amazing stuff. So Caponata, this is something we are going to be doing on Sunday. This coming Sunday, I'm hosting with Annalisa Pompeo of Go Sicily Cooking School in Agrigento province. We are hosting a Caponata class, how to make it and preserve it. So registration's open. I hope you'll join us. It's $35 to participate in this class. The registration details are at experiencesicily.com. Right on the homepage, you'll find it if you scroll down a little bit. We're going to have a lot of fun on Sunday, so I really hope that you'll join us. Caponata is the classic Sicilian cuisine. It's on every table, and every family has a recipe that they prefer. And so we're going to learn Annalisa's recipe on Sunday. I hope you'll join us. It's going to be incredible. But this is important to know. To understand Sicilian cuisine, you have to know about Caponata. So again, there's so many different kinds of different things to eat in Sicily. Amazing seafood, amazing gelato, amazing granita, which we call Italian ice in English. Pasta con le sarde in the lower right. We have the martorana, frutta martorana, which is here is actually the marzipan lambs for Easter. It goes on and on. Small group tours is what I specialize in. I lead all the tours that we offer. 2021, I think I have 6 tours that I'm offering. 2022 for sure. Easter, it's going to be amazing in 2022. 12 people and fewer are on these tours, and that enables us to really get into the small villages, stay in characteristic inns, and really get to interact with local people. So we have a fantastic time. I am so dedicated to making sure that you have a smooth experience, that every detail is taken care of so you can really feel Sicily. That is the object of what we do at Experience Sicily. So just to give you an idea of what we have coming up, if it's possible in May, June to travel, we're going to do Enchanting Sicily at the end of May into June. That includes going to see the theater in Syracuse. That's one of the highlights of the trip. We have yoga in Sicily. With Cleo Mallon is the yoga instructor. She's in Philadelphia and she's wonderful. We are good friends, and we're gonna have a fantastic time in July next year, and probably in 2022 we will offer this as well. Secret Sicily is one of my signature trips. This is a fascinating 10 days. We spend the whole time in a small village in the center of Sicily called Licodia Eubea. This is not a tourist town at all. It is 3,000 people live there, but I have a great contact there who sets us up in different apartments around the village, and we use that as our base, and you feel like you live in this village for a week while we visit UNESCO sites outside of the town during the day. And then we come back in the evening, and during the time we're there, they're celebrating their patron saint, Santa Margherita. So we get to be part of their feast. It is so exciting to be in this town, and they are fascinated by why do these Americans want to be in our little village. So it's a lot of fun. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience. Secret Sicily, life in a remote Sicilian town. That's what this tour is called. I do a cooking and wine trip, food and wine, called Stirring Sicily every September. We have 3 hands-on cooking classes, a really intense winery visit to really get into the winemaking process. It's not just, I mean, it's actually a real working winery, not one of these beautiful, like, let's sit on the veranda, drink wine. You've done that a million times everywhere else. This winery visit is really about getting into the details of, like, what's the machinery that macerates the grapes, that kind of thing. So That's what Stirring Sicily is. And we have picnics in the forest and we have wonderful local hosts. So you really, this is like, it's by the time you're in the second day, we are family because we're all cooking together and eating all the different cheeses and sharing our plates, etc. So it's a wonderful experience. And then another trip I absolutely love is Stunning Sicily, which is the October trip. The weather is beautiful there. And we start in Taramina. And we get all the way around the island, ending in Castellamare del Golfo, actually. So there you go. We get to see a lot of the island, as well as having wonderful slow pace. That's the idea of this. You can really reflect on what you're seeing and savor every minute of Sicily. So I mentioned stateside events earlier, the Cannoli Crawl. Hopefully soon we can do that again in New York City. And St. Joseph's Day, we'll see what happens coming up in the next few months. But until then, we're doing online events. So like I mentioned, Caponata on Sunday, October 25th. And then coming up, I'm going to announce more events, but one I know that's happening is November 22nd, artichokes 3 ways, just in time for Thanksgiving, because I know many of you love to bring your stuffed artichokes to your Thanksgiving dinner with your family. So we're going to learn from Annalisa again of Go Sicily, who will be in Sicily teaching us from her kitchen in Sicily, artichokes 3 ways. So we'll see her on Sunday for Caponata, and then at the end of November for artichokes. So more events will be announced. But in the meantime, then, we have, I host a podcast called On Sicily. And so you can go to experiencesicily.com or any of your favorite podcast providers and look for On Sicily. And I will be releasing another episode very soon. I'm working on it right now. So here I am in Selinunte, and here's my contact information. Of course, you'll hear from me after the event too, but for sure, let's be in touch. Now, to your questions, because it is getting late, and I'm going to stay on the call for as long as you want, so we can get your questions answered. One of the questions that came in, and I know this is a burning question for so many people, is, tell me about the €1 homes. What is that about? What is it like to buy a house in Sicily? What's involved with that? So right now, there are a number of towns in Sicily, quote, offering €1 homes. Now, the €1 thing is really to attract you to get to come to Bovina or to Camerata to look at what's available there. But they don't just have €1 homes. They have homes that range in price and range in what needs to be done to these homes. So, it's an experience. I will say that I think I'm going to recommend, I don't know because it hasn't premiered yet, but starting this weekend, I think on the 25th actually, Sambuca di Sicilia, Lorraine Bracco, the actress from The Sopranos, has a show. It's going to be on HGTV, I believe. And it's all about her buying one of these homes and renovating it and what her experience is. So it's a whole series of doing this actual thing, which I really want to watch. So there you have it in terms of, really getting what it's all about to do that. Purchasing a home in Italy requires, you to have money. You can't go to an Italian bank to get a mortgage. You have to have a mortgage ready, or you have to have cash, and there's a process. And if you really want somebody to help you through this, I just sat in on a webinar myself about this, and I can send you that information. So you can write me an email and I'll send that information to you. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to start taking your questions. So if you have a question, you can write it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and speak up, and we'll see how it goes. I hope I answered a lot for you already, but of course, I want to hear your specific questions. So who wants to start? And again, if you don't feel like you want to answer it or ask me, out loud, you can write it in the chat as well. Anyone? Nobody has a question? Come on.
Allison.
Yes.
Gilda.
Hi, Gilda. How are you?
Good. I don't know how much you obviously have family on the ground. I've been hearing that the situation of dual citizenship is changing.
Really? How so? What have you heard? I don't think so.
Well, that there is a faction in the government that is trying to make it more difficult,
Uh-huh. Right.
and also that the time has been elongated. If you have not started the process, or even if you have, not as simplified as it was some time ago. There are many
Yes.
more people interested, I understand. You know,
That is true. That is true. In fact, and with COVID too, there's a lot of people that have all of a sudden expressed their interest. Now, I will say I am personally seeking my citizenship right now. I'm actually going on Thursday. I have an appointment at the consulate in New York for mine.
wonderful, yeah.
Which I'm so excited about. I've been preparing for months. And I'm doing it through my marriage. And I know personally that this particular way has changed and it has become more difficult. And like you're saying, there is a faction of the government, which is the more conservative Lega group, the Salvini cohort,
Yes.
that are making it more difficult. So for someone like me who's trying to get my citizenship through my marriage, my husband has his Italian passport. He's American, but did get his Italian citizenship through proving that his grandfather had not renounced, etc. He was able to show his bloodline. So in my case, yes, they have made me take a language exam, which didn't have to be the case before. So I had to prove that I had a certain proficiency and a very advanced proficiency, mind you, and not just simple stuff. I mean, I speak Italian. I've been studying Italian for 25 years. So for me, this test was not so difficult. I learned actually how to take the test, so I knew what to expect. I studied for the test like you would study for how to take the SAT. So it is like the SAT, it's that difficult. It was 5 hours of different things. You know, they interviewed me, I had to listen to stuff and respond, and I had to read things and respond, I mean, grammar, etc. So that there's an advanced intermediate level that you need if you're doing it through marriage. And now I'm gonna go and submit all my paperwork, which is like every police record, so showing I have no police record for every town, every state I lived in since I was 14. I might have to wait 48 months. That's 4
what I
years.
understood. Yes.
Yeah. So yes, this used to be 2 years that they had to get back to me
Right.
in 2 years, and they extended it to 4 years. So that is true, what you're saying. If you're doing it by the bloodline, which is called juris sanguinis, I think is how you pronounce it, right? That also is a long process, and I think it's 36 months to, again, 48 months that they could take to get that to you. However, they are really interested in giving you citizenship. They want people who have money, especially people who are older, who are ready to retire, who that don't need to work, for example. They are interested in moving you through. And also, depending on the region you live in, if you're in San Francisco, or you're in New York or Philadelphia or Miami, getting appointments can be more easy or more difficult. New York is very difficult. It's a very busy consulate right now, especially with COVID. It makes it even harder. So I'm not an expert in this, certainly, but I know a lot about it because my husband went through it and now I'm going through it. But it's possible, and if you do your homework and you really go to your first appointment prepared, you can get through. My husband had one appointment. He had everything ready. He didn't have homework to do. That's what they call it when they send you home with getting more papers before they'll even acknowledge it. So if you get yourself ready, and you can do it on your own, you don't need a lawyer, you don't need one of these special companies, you can do it by yourself. It just takes a lot of time and really detailed work. He did it on his own. It can be done. It can be done. So it's just about waiting for that appointment is the hardest part in New York.
Yes.
Miami, Philadelphia, it's a lot easier. But you have to live in the jurisdiction of, the consulate that you go to.
Right.
Let's see. Anyone else have another question? I hope I answered your question. Yes.
No, thank you. Thank
Okay,
you.
good. Who else has a question? take yourself off mute. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
I
Jennifer.
did. I muted, I unmuted.
Okay, Jennifer, tell me, what do you have? What
Tell
questions
us,
do you have?
I'm gonna say, I always pronounce it wrong, but tell me more about the farmhouses, like we're thinking of farmhouse in America, and it's very different in Sicily.
Yes, agriturismo. Agriturismo.
I wasn't even close to what I was gonna say.
Right, well, agritourism is maybe how you might pronounce it. So everywhere is different. Each one is different because it really depends on the family who is hosting this. And some farms are real working farms and some farms are like glamour farms. So, you know, again, it's a great way to travel. And you really will have families who love doing this. You have a great experience with them. Families who just do it because they want the tax write-off, you know, which is this can be the case, then you're going to be like on your own a little bit. And that's true with like Airbnb. It's the same thing. Like I personally, for my clients, I have decided I am not, if you want to do Airbnb, go ahead, but just tell me where you're staying and you arrange it and you pick it out, because I can't guarantee the hospitality for an Airbnb host. However, agriturismo, I make a point to stay in the places I recommend to my clients or tour them. So I have met the owner, I have toured the place, or I've actually slept there, I've eaten the food. I take it very seriously, or I go by a person that I trust a great deal who recommends it. So everyone is different. Some of them are beautifully newly renovated places and other places are rustic places, and the price will reflect that. And of course, you know, are there animals on the farm? Is it a vineyard? Is it an olive farm? Is it a wheat farm? I mean, all these things determine the kind of experience you're going to have there. So
Thank you.
yeah. And is the food good? You know, because that's part of it too, is the part of the joy of staying in a farmhouse is that you're eating we call it arm to table. Like you're literally picking the figs off the tree and eating it. You know, that's part of the joy of staying there. So you want to make sure that who's ever cooking is also really good at that, you know. So usually they are. Usually the mama is really good at cooking. So who else has a question? Anyone?
Make it go.
Arlene says I gave so much information that she might have a question later, but she's so overwhelmed with all the details. Nancy.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to figure this out. Oh, I think I got it.
You
Am I
got
on?
it. You're
Okay.
on.
So my question is, do you know the current situation of what happened in the Zingaro with the fire? Have you heard about that?
Right. Yes, there have been, I mean, Sicily every summer, and this is climate change and it's also arson, actually. I hate to say it, but it's true. Yes, there was a major fire probably 6 weeks ago in that area. And unfortunately, it's a fact of life there, and it's tragic. But what happens is the landscape does come back. I have a good friend who does hikes through there. I should ask him actually about what he knows. He hasn't been in that region in a while, but he will certainly know.
Yeah, so sad. I wonder what the situation is like now, you know?
Yeah,
It's so beautiful, you know?
Yes, it's absolutely beautiful. This is why I love Trapani province in that area, specifically with Scopello and Castellammare del Golfo. It's extraordinary. Lo Zingaro is really extraordinary. And I'm guessing that, it will come back just like anywhere that it has a fire. Whether we might miss some of the animal life, that may take some time, obviously, to return. But this is an unfortunate thing about Sicily. And I mean, I'm not sure how much of this we have in the United States, but essentially there are people that start fires to distract the authorities while they do some other business that they shouldn't be doing. And this is a common problem. They take advantage of the hot, dry weather to do this kind of stuff. And depending on how fast they can get to the places, that's depending on that determines what kind of destruction or not happens. So yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, sad.
Yes.
Is it worth it to go? I have another question. Is it worth it to go to Farm Cultural Park? Do you know what I'm talking about? In Favara? Is it worth it to go?
Well, again, it depends on your interest. I think it's kind of a fascinating place because it's almost like a little piece of the East Village in the middle of Sicily. And also they have exhibits. So depending on what the exhibit is, my feeling is that if you're into contemporary art and you're into contemporary artists, yeah, it's an interesting place to visit. If you're really into contemporary art, I would suggest going in Trapani province to Gibellina, and that area, because that area has like incredible modern art post 1968 after that earthquake. So Farm Culture Park is interesting. It's very small. I mean, literally you could get through there in an hour. It's more about the concept of it, that this couple purchased this area of Favara that was very depressed. There was nothing there, and they brought in artists and they painted and they created this incredible place that has really brought something to the center of Favara. And Favara is really had the resurgence of that town is due to Farm Culture Park. It's amazing what has happened there. Even since I went first in 2014 was the first time I was there, to now, the difference in Favara is incredible. So seeing that actually makes it very interesting how that town has come about.
Wow.
Gary, you have a question. Turn your mic off, or yeah, turn your mute off, and because you're muted, Gary. Okay,
Now-
there you go.
Now you can hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I understand, of course, that there's a lot of the Godfather influence in Sicily. They have tours with something of that nature?
Yes, when you are in Taramina, for example, there is a Godfather tour from there. Savoca is the town that's outside of Taramina. It's about 40 minutes up in the mountain, where they filmed a number of scenes in The Godfather, the first movie. So a lot of people go to Savoca to see those places. So the church where Michael married Apollonia, right? Is that her name?
Bologna.
And then Barvizzini is, where they have the conversation with the father about who's the girl in the purple dress. That's right there as well. So there are a few other sites around. So Corleone, which is where they're supposed to actually be, is in Palermo province, and they did not film anything there. This is movie people pick, what's going to be cinematic. So Savoca is absolutely beautiful and cinematic, and that's where you would visit if you wanted to see sites from the Godfather movie. And there's another town also, like where that villa is, where she's driving the car, she gets in the car and the car explodes. That's actually a private location, but I think that a guide might be able to get you in there to see it if you want. But most of the stuff that you want to see is in Savoca. So yes, it's possible. But honestly, I think that what's more interesting is going to Corleone or going to Salemi. Salemi is in Trapani province. And the reason why is because these two towns have anti-mafia museums. The Salemi one I've been to, Corleone I haven't been to. I've been to Salemi a couple of times, probably 3 times now. It is very moving. The mafia is not something to be glorified at all. It still exists. It's still a problem. It's not anything like it was 25, 30 years ago. Definitely. Things have completely changed in Sicily. Sicilians are very much about not wanting this to happen, this disease in their society, and they fight it as much as they can. And things like the Anti-Mafia Museum in Salemi and the one in Corleone have been educating young people about why this organized crime and corruption is not a business to be in. And these museums, especially Salemi, because I know it, they are extremely informative and very, very moving. And you come away with, why on earth would we glorify this? It is not something to be glorified. So Savoca, they have tourists there all the time. They kind of grin and bear it, I have to say. They're not, they grin and bear it. They know you're coming and they're happy to have your money, certainly, but they're also happy to see you leave. So who else has a question?
I have questions.
Yes, Roseanne.
I have actually 3 questions.
Good.
First of all, for the times that I've been there, I've always been interested in the boat excursions to go to the Aeolian Islands, but I really don't know much about, do you just walk up there? Do you have to make reservations? Like, that's one thing, like, I was curious about. And do you do a day trip there, or do you stay and then a day or 2 and then come back?
Right. Well, I think the Aeolian Islands are incredible and they deserve more than a day trip. You can do a day trip and you would do it from Milazzo, or you do it from Cefalù. Cefalù has a couple of different companies that do, and in fact, they don't always leave from Cefalù. They say they leave from Cefalù, but you actually take a bus to Capo d'Orlando, and then from Capo d'Orlando, you take the boat to the Aeolian Islands, and they will visit usually Lipari and Volcano, and then that will be your day if you do that. So it's kind of rushed, and you'll be on a boat with a lot of people. I highly recommend, especially with you, Roseanne, because you've been to Sicily, your family there, take 5 days, go. It's amazing. The Aeolian Islands are incredible. Lipari is the biggest. It has the most services on it. Each one has its own personality, just like Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard and Block Island have their own personalities. So do the different Aeolian Islands. So Panarea is really hotsy-totsy Euro discos and young people, beautiful people. And then Salina is very serene and has these incredible resorts on them. Volcano has an incredible resort, but you have to deal with the fact that it smells like rotten eggs when you're there because of the sulfur springs. But you get used to it after a couple hours anyway. But yeah, Milazzo is really where you would take the main ferry. And I always recommend making a reservation, especially if you also have to, if you have a car and you have to park your car on the mainland, you want to make a reservation in a garage also, and that's possible. So you make a reservation, you buy your tickets in advance, and your cousin is in Trabia, I think, right? So you could do a day trip from there. It just
She's in Altavilla.
Altavilla, yeah, same difference. So you could do a day trip from there. I have done a day trip and it's just very rushed. I really recommend that, you could really enjoy having, staying in Lipari and using Lipari as a base, and then doing a day tour to Stromboli and Panarea, and doing another day tour to Alicudi and Filicudi, and spending a lot of time in Volcano, spending a lot of time in Lipari itself, which has incredible vineyards on it. The Malvasia wine is cultivated there, the grape and then the wine. Salina is beautiful. It's where they filmed Il Postino. So that is a wonderful place to visit. So there's a lot to them. And I think, for somebody like you who's been to Sicily before and really seen a lot of the island, it's so worth it. This is like the next layer. I have a dream that in a couple years, we'll see how tourism goes, but I would love to do where I hire a goulet, which is like one of these sailboats that sleeps 14 people, has a chef on it, right, as well. And we start in Palermo, and then we have a week where each day you're on a different island, and then you return back to the Palermo at the end of the week. That is a dream trip that I want to plan for a small group. And I will do that at some point, but we'll see how the next couple years unfold. But that is something that I would love to do. And then you have the chef on the trip, on the boat with us, and it makes it, and you swim off the boat and you sleep on the boat. So, we have to obviously get COVID out of the picture here, but that is something that is awesome to do as well. And if you had a group that you have a family that you wanted to do that for, certainly that's something we could plan as well. So
I have another question.
Yeah.
Like, when they say when you go to those places where you can like rub yourself with the mud and everything, because I have fibromyalgia pretty bad sometimes. So I always said I should have done that, but I had no idea where to go, if it's by the Greek temples, or like, is it by the water?
Okay, well, the one that's really the best one is in Volcano. That is where, right on, there's a whole beach and it's all sulfur mud. And the hot springs are literally coming up from the seafloor into the beach. The water, you're on the beach, but the water is like 100 something degrees because the hot springs are coming up underneath. And you basically just scoop the mud in your hand, just rub it all over your body. It's amazing. You exfoliate and you just feel incredible. And I always say, bring a bathing suit that you want to throw away at the end of that day, because your bathing suit, you never get it clean again because of the mud. But that is really the best place. Shaka was famous for its hot springs, and actually more for the sulfur air that it had. But all those are closed. All those spas are closed. There's talk about how they're going to reopen them so that they're more sustainable and that they can deal with the onslaught of the tourism, because they were really concerned about the quality of the springs and the caves that you go in there and keeping them. So Shaka is sort of tabled for now. There's another little place that's really not it's in the woods, and it's like you have to know how to get there, outside of Castellamare del Golfo, sort of near the temple Sagesta. It's kind of near there.
That's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that one I've been to also, and really, like, it's so funny because I was like the only woman. There's all these men there. It's like, but I was with two guys, so I was okay with it. But again, that's like in the like you have to know how to get there on this back road, and that's kind of, it's not like Volcano is like out in the middle of everything, in the middle of town almost. This is in the middle of the woods, and you have to have sort of a local person take you there. And those are the ones that I know about. I know that there's some other place on Aetna, but again, it's like locals know about it, but not many people do. So certainly I could ask my local guide on Aetna if he knows about it, and if it's something that he would do, if you wanted to do something like that. We could check that out with Fabrizio.
Then I have another one, The House in Sicily, that book.
Yes.
And the villa is still, I think it's for tourism now. Is it worth it to see it?
That's the one in Taramina?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know about that one, actually. I'm not familiar with it.
You ever read
personally.
the book?
No.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. And it's history with like Hemingway and Tennessee Williams. It's really interesting. You should definitely read that book. But I don't know if Karen has gone there. And then the other, I just say something, my cousin in August runs a jazz festival, which you'd probably really like, in Faguzza. His name is Antonio Macaluso. And that's a really kind of nice, I think it's week long or a few weeks of like at nights, and he has dinners that go with it.
Right, and Castelbuono also has an incredible jazz festival.
Oh yeah, and this is like he has a band come from, the last time I was there, it came from Brazil. And it was really pretty cool. And then it was with a dinner. I'm not sure. I don't think it runs all day long like our festivals. I'm not sure, but it's a real, and you would like it because of your musical background and stuff. But okay,
yeah, it's amazing. There's so much live music going on, especially in the warmer months. That's the wonderful thing about.
And they love their jazz.
Yeah, they love jazz, and they're really into going out and being in, and whole families go out. They don't have a drinking age thing that we have here, where you're separating all the kids from the parents and all that stuff. The whole family goes and participates in it. It's wonderful. So yeah, I mean, it's a very different culture in terms of that, and the music is everywhere. Live music's everywhere. It's really wonderful.
Right.
Who else? Anyone else have a question? Roseanne, did I get all your questions in?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you all so much for hanging out and listening and being part of tonight. I know a lot of people have already dropped off, which is good because they had to go, but the World Series is on. I know I'm looking forward to watching that. So I'm rooting for Tampa Bay, because if they beat my Yankees, they better win the whole thing. So
thank you so much. Great presentation.
Good.
Thank
you.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Gilda.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Ciao, Bella.
All right, thank you. And again, if you have a question comes up, just email me, call me, whatever. I'm happy to talk all the time about Sicily. So, and I hope I'll see you making caponata and some other stuff coming up.
Yes, see you Sunday.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night. Good night, everyone.